Sirens shattered a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Bel Air as officers aggressively shoved Josephine, a devoted housekeeper, into a waiting squad car. $50,000 wrapped in pristine bank bands sat inside her canvas tote bag. Everyone assumed guilt, but absolute devastation loomed just behind closed mansion doors. Austin Thompson, a billionaire titan in the commercial real estate sector, prided himself on his ability to read people. He had built his vast empire on intuition, trusting his gut in boardrooms and negotiations that involved staggering sums of capital. Yet as his chauffeured Maybach pulled through the towering wrought-iron gates of his palatial Los Angeles estate, his legendary intuition completely failed him. Flashing red and blue lights painted the pristine white marble of his home's exterior in chaotic, alarming strokes. 2 police cruisers were parked haphazardly on the imported gravel driveway. Standing precisely in the center of the commotion was Josephine Clark. Josephine, a 48-year-old black woman with kind, weary eyes, and a laugh that routinely filled the otherwise hollow halls of the Thompson mansion, was weeping. Her hands, which had meticulously cared for Austin's home and deeply nurtured his children for the past 7 years, were painfully pinned behind her back, bound in heavy steel handcuffs. "Austin, Mr. Thompson, please tell them." Josephine's voice cracked raw with genuine terror. She struggled against the firm grip of a burly police officer. "I didn't take it. I swear on my mother's grave, I never touched his safe." Austin leapt from his vehicle before his driver could even open the door. The balmy California air suddenly felt suffocating. "Officer, hold on a minute. What on earth is happening here?" he demanded, his voice carrying the authoritative boom that usually silenced boardrooms. Before the officer could respond, the heavy mahogany front door of the mansion swung wide open. Vera Thompson stepped out onto the sprawling portico, clutching the collar of her cashmere cardigan, as if shielding herself from a violent storm. Vera, Austin's wife of 10 years, was a former high society darling whose immaculate appearance rarely betrayed any emotion. Today, however, her perfectly applied mascara was supposedly ruined by tears. "Austin, thank God you're home," Vera cried out, rushing down the steps to press herself against his chest. She trembled violently, a theatrical display of distress. "It's horrifying, Austin. Simply horrifying. I caught her." "Caught her doing what, Vera?" Austin asked, his gaze still locked on Josephine, who was shaking her head frantically in denial. "She was stealing from us." Vera sobbed, pointing an accusing manicured finger at the housekeeper. "I went into your private study to retrieve some documents for the accountant. I saw Josephine hurrying out. She looked incredibly nervous. When I demanded to look inside her bag, she tried to run. The police found it, Austin. $50,000. Your emergency cash from the wall safe." Austin felt the blood drain from his face. He looked at the evidence table the officers had hastily set up on the hood of a cruiser. There, resting beside Josephine's faded floral-patterned canvas tote bag, were 5 thick stacks of $100 bills, precisely bound in the banking straps Austin recognized from his private reserve. "50,000, Austin murmured, stunned. "Mr. Thompson, your wife called us reporting a grand theft." Officer Harrison, the lead policeman on the scene, stated firmly. "We discovered the exact stolen amount concealed at the bottom of the suspect's personal property, beneath her uniform and a pair of shoes. It's an open and shut case. We are taking her into custody for processing." "Mr. Thompson, look at me. Please look at me." Josephine begged, the tears streaming down her rich, dark skin, catching the harsh glare of the police lights. "I have worked for you for 7 years. Have I ever taken a single dime? I love Oliver and Sophia like they are my own blood. I would never do something to jeopardize my place in their lives. The money was planted. I put my bag down in the mudroom when I arrived at 6 this morning, and never touched it again until Vera handed it to me and called the police. "Shut your lying mouth!" Vera snapped her voice, suddenly losing its fragile tremor, replaced by a sharp, venomous edge. "You took advantage of our kindness. You thought because we are wealthy we wouldn't notice a few missing stacks of cash. You're a thief." Austin stood paralyzed between the two women. Logic dictated that he believe his wife and the physical evidence sitting in plain sight. The money was undeniably his, and it was undeniably in Josephine's bag. Yet looking into Josephine's eyes, Austin saw only the desperate, agonizing panic of an innocent woman. This was the woman who stayed up until 3 in the morning, applying cool compresses to his children's foreheads when they caught the flu. This was the woman who baked them sweet potato pies from her grandmother's recipe when Austin and Vera were away on month-long business trips. The mathematics of the situation simply did not align with the humanity he knew. "Daddy!" Austin snapped his head upward. Standing at the top of the grand staircase, visible through the massive glass entryway, were 8-year-old twins, Oliver and Sophia. They were clutching each other's hands so tightly, their knuckles were entirely white. Their small faces were masks of absolute horror as they watched the only true maternal figure they had ever known being shoved into the cramped, caged back seat of a police cruiser. "Take her away," Vera ordered the officers, dismissing them with a wave of her hand. "We will be pressing full charges." As the cruiser door slammed shut, severing Josephine's final pleas, Austin watched the vehicle speed down the driveway. A profound, unsettling silence descended upon the estate, but inside Austin's mind, an alarm bell began to ring with deafening intensity. The massive Thompson estate felt like a mausoleum that evening. The usual sounds of the household, the hum of the vacuum, the smell of dinner roasting in the gourmet kitchen, Josephine's warm melodic humming as she folded laundry, were entirely absent. Austin sat in his darkened study, staring at the open, empty wall, safe hidden behind a framed original Picasso. The keypad hadn't been forced. Someone had entered the 6-digit code. Only 2 people possessed that code, Austin and Vera. He had spent the afternoon pulling strings with a high-end bail bondsman, using an anonymous shell corporation to post Josephine's exorbitant bail. He couldn't bear the thought of her sitting in a cold holding cell, not when his gut screamed that a massive piece of the puzzle was missing. He had instructed his legal team to quietly observe the police investigation without interfering just yet. Vera walked into the study, holding a crystal glass of gin. She had completely abandoned her distressed victim persona. In its place was a chillingly composed, almost celebratory demeanor. "I've already contacted the Sterling agency," Vera announced, taking a slow sip of her drink. "They are sending over 3 candidates for interviews tomorrow morning. We need someone younger, Austin. Someone who understands boundaries. And frankly, someone who doesn't think they are a part of the family." Austin didn't look at her. Josephine was part of the family, Vera. The children adore her. Vera scoffed loudly, rolling her eyes. "Oh, please. She was hired help. She got greedy. It happens every day in this zip code. Now I think we should take the jet and go to Gstaad for a few weeks. Let the lawyers handle the criminal trial. The twins need a distraction." "The twins need their father," Austin corrected her, his tone dropping an octave. "And they need answers. Have you even checked on them since the police left?" Vera waved her hand dismissively. "They are fine. They are in their playroom. Children are resilient, Austin. Stop being so dramatic." Austin stood up, ignoring his wife, as he bypassed her and walked up the grand staircase. He made his way down the long, carpeted hallway to the eastern wing of the house, where the children's suites were located. When he slowly opened the door to the playroom, he didn't find them playing with their expensive, imported toys or watching television on the massive screen. Instead, Oliver and Sophia were huddled together inside a small canvas play tent in the far corner of the room. The lights were off. Austin felt a sharp ache in his chest. He lowered his tall frame to the plush carpet and crawled into the small tent to join his children. It was cramped, but he pulled his knees to his chest and sat silently for a long moment, simply offering his presence. Sophia's face was stained with dried tears. Oliver stared blankly at the floor, aggressively twisting a small action figure in his hands until the plastic creaked. "Hey guys," Austin whispered softly, keeping his voice incredibly gentle. "I know today was really scary." Oliver refused to look up. "Is Josie in a cage?" he asked, his voice trembling violently. "No," Austin said firmly, placing a comforting hand on his son's small shoulder. "No, buddy. I made sure she got to go home. She's safe tonight. I promise you that." Sophia let out a ragged breath and leaned against Austin's arm. "Mommy said Josie is a bad person. Mommy said Josie is a thief, and we can never ever see her again. And if we talk about her, we will get in big trouble." Austin frowned in the darkness. "You will never get in trouble for talking about Josephine with me. Do you understand I am your dad? You can tell me anything." The twins exchanged a terrified, panicked look. They communicated silently the way only twins could, having a rapid, unseen conversation through wide eyes and subtle shifts in posture. Oliver swallowed hard, looking toward the door of the playroom to ensure it was closed. "Dad." Oliver started, his lower lip quivering uncontrollably. "If we tell you a secret, a really bad secret, will Mommy send us away? She said she would send us to a military school in the cold mountains if we didn't keep our mouths shut. Just like she sent our golden retriever away when you were in Tokyo." Austin's blood ran completely cold. Vera had told him the family dog, which she despised for shedding on the furniture, had tragically run away through an open gate while he was abroad. He realized in an instant that the foundation of his marriage was built on a series of elaborate, calculated lies. "Look at me, Oliver. Look at me, Sophia." Austin commanded softly, his eyes blazing with a fierce protective fire. "No one is sending you anywhere. I am your father. I own this house. I own the cars, and I make the rules. Mommy cannot send you away. I will protect you with my life. What happened today? What is the secret?" Sophia began to cry, burying her face in her hands. It was Oliver who finally broke. He looked his father dead in the eye, bearing the heavy, crushing weight of a truth too large for an 8-year-old boy to carry. "Josie didn't take your money, Daddy." Oliver sobbed, the tears flowing freely down his cheeks. "We saw everything from the balcony. We were hiding." "What did you see, Oliver?" Austin pressed his heart, pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. "Mommy put the money in Josie's bag." Oliver confessed his words, rushing out in a desperate flood. "Mommy opened your secret wall safe when you were at the office. She took the green bricks of money and she went into the mudroom. We watched her push the money all the way to the bottom of Josie's bag. Then she called the police on her fancy phone." Austin felt the oxygen leave the small tent. The implications were staggering. His wife had deliberately framed an innocent woman. But why? What could possibly drive a billionaire's wife to construct such a malicious, risky setup? Why, Oliver? Why would Mommy do that? Austin asked, though he was almost terrified to hear the answer. Sophia looked up, her blue eyes dark with trauma. "Because Josie found out Daddy. Josie found Mommy's secret suitcases." Austin froze. "What suitcases?" "Mommy has big bags packed in her closet, hidden behind the winter coats." Sophia whispered rapidly, terrified of being overheard. "Josie accidentally knocked one over yesterday when she was vacuuming, and a bunch of papers fell out. Passports. But not just Mommy's passport. Yours too. And papers with other names on them. Mummy came in and screamed at Josie. She told Josie if she told you about the bags or about Uncle David, she would ruin Josie's life forever. The name hit Austin like a physical blow to the jaw. Uncle David. David Kensington was Austin's chief financial officer, his most trusted confidant in the company, and the only other person in the world who had access to Austin's offshore corporate accounts. Austin's legendary intuition, which had seemingly abandoned him that afternoon, suddenly roared back to life with terrifying clarity. Vera wasn't just framing a maid over a petty squabble. Vera and David were planning to completely liquidate Austin's assets, take his identity documents to access his private trusts, and flee the country. Josephine, the diligent, loyal housekeeper, had accidentally stumbled across the extraction plan. Framing her for theft was Vera's panicked, ruthless way to destroy Josephine's credibility before she could expose the affair and the ultimate betrayal. Austin slowly pulled both of his children into a tight, desperate embrace. The billionaire who had conquered global markets now sat on the floor of a children's tent, plotting the most important high-stakes negotiation of his entire life. Vera thought she had won. She thought she had silenced the only witness. She had severely underestimated the loyalty of the twins and the wrath of a father awakened to the truth. Midnight shrouded the Bel-Air estate in a suffocating quiet as Austin Thompson sat perfectly still in the darkness of his private office. His mind, usually a disciplined fortress of logic and strategy, raced with explosive anger and calculated precision. Vera and David, the two people closest to him in the world, plotting his absolute financial and personal destruction. Austin refused to act on pure emotion. Destroying an alliance between his wife and his chief financial officer required absolute, undeniable proof. He reached for his encrypted satellite phone, a device reserved solely for corporate emergencies, and dialed a number that bypassed all standard networks. Thompson. A gruff voice answered on the first ring. It was Richard Hayes Austin's director of corporate intelligence and a former intelligence operative who trusted no one. Richard, I need a complete covert audit of all offshore holdings authorized by David Kensington. Austin ordered, his voice a low, dangerous growl. Look for ghost accounts, shadow transfers, and anything staged for immediate liquidation. Furthermore, I need you to access the black box server for my home residence. Do it now. Vera believed she controlled the estate's surveillance system. She frequently adjusted camera angles to give herself blind spots, claiming she valued her privacy from the security staff. However, Austin had secretly installed a secondary hardwired network of micro-cameras when the twins were born, a strict anti-kidnapping protocol known only to him and Richard. Accessing the black box now, sir. Richard replied, the clacking of keys echoing through the secure line. I'm scrubbing the footage from the mudroom and your study from this afternoon. What exactly am I looking for? Watch my wife, Austin instructed coldly. Minutes stretched into an agonizing eternity. Austin stared out the reinforced window of his study, gazing at the manicured lawns bathed in pale moonlight. He thought of Josephine, sitting in her sister's modest Inglewood apartment, terrified and humiliated, carrying the heavy stigma of a criminal charge she didn't commit. He thought of his children trembling in a dark tent, burdened by adult sins. So, Richard's voice broke the silence, heavily laced with disbelief. I have it. Clear as day. At 1:14 p.m., Vera Thompson accesses your wall safe. She removes $50,000 in bound cash. At 1:17 p.m., she enters the mudroom. She deliberately stuffs the cash into the bottom of Josephine Clark's canvas tote bag. It's premeditated, sir. Austin closed his eyes a heavy sigh escaping his lungs. "Save the file, Richard. Secure it on 3 separate offline servers." "What about David?" "That's where it gets worse." Richard continued, his tone turning clinical. "I'm looking at the back end of the Cayman routing algorithms. Kensington has been building a ghost protocol for the last 6 months. He's masked it beautifully under international tax offset codes, but it's a funnel. At precisely 9 a.m. this Friday, a sequence is set to trigger. It will drain $400 million from your liquid holdings and dump it into an untraceable account in Zurich. The authorization requires a dual signature cipher, your digital fingerprint and his. "Vera has my secondary digital fingerprint token." Austin realized the final puzzle piece snapping into place with sickening clarity. "She told me she locked it in her safety deposit box for safekeeping." "They are cleaning you out, Austin," Richard stated plainly. "Once that money hits Zurich, it's gone. And with the forged travel documents you suspect they have, they will vanish right behind it." "Not if I trap them first," Austin said, his eyes snapping open. Richard set up a dummy server. "When David executes the transfer on Friday, let the system verify the transaction on his end, but route the actual capital into an escrow account under my exclusive control. Let them think they won, and have a federal white-collar crimes unit standing by. I want them caught red-handed committing wire fraud on a global scale." Before dawn broke, Austin slipped out of the mansion unnoticed. He drove his personal Aston Martin away from the wealthy hills navigating the quiet freeways until he reached a modest neighborhood in Inglewood. He parked across the street from a small yellow house and knocked on the front door just as the sun began to peek over the horizon. Josephine's sister opened the door, her expression hardening instantly at the sight of the billionaire. But before she could speak, Josephine appeared behind her, looking exhausted, her eyes red and swollen from crying all night. "Mr. Thompson," Josephine whispered, wrapping a worn bathrobe tightly around herself. "Why are you here? Are the police coming back?" "No, Josephine," Austin said, softly removing his hat. "I came to apologize. I came to tell you that I know the truth. Oliver and Sophia told me everything they saw." Josephine broke down, covering her face, as a massive wave of relief washed over her. Austin stepped inside the small living room, sitting across from the woman who had held his family together. He explained everything: the cameras, the offshore accounts, Vera's betrayal, and his plan. "I need you to stay strong for just a few more days," Austin told her, looking her directly in the eyes. "The charges against you will be completely dropped and expunged, but I need Vera and David to believe their plan worked. If they think you've spoken to me, they might run before Friday. Can you trust me, Josephine?" Josephine wiped her tears, sitting up a little straighter. The resilience that made her such a phenomenal force in his children's lives shone through her exhaustion. "I don't care about the money, Mr. Thompson. I just care about those babies. You make sure their mother can never hurt them again." "I give you my word," Austin swore. Thursday evening arrived with a suffocating tension inside the Thompson estate. Austin feigned a state of mild panic, packing a luxurious leather overnight bag. He found Vera lounging by the indoor pool, sipping a cocktail and scrolling mindlessly through her phone. "Vera disaster at the Tokyo firm," Austin announced, perfectly mimicking the frantic energy of a corporate crisis. "The merger is falling apart. I have to fly out tonight. I'll be gone through the weekend at least." Vera masked her immediate elation with a pout, sitting up and adjusting her designer cover-up. "Oh, Austin, that's terrible. And right after the stress of that awful Maid stealing from us. Are you sure you have to go?" "I have no choice." Austin lied, smoothly kissing her on the cheek, a gesture that made his skin crawl. "Keep the doors locked. The temporary nanny from the agency is handling the twins well. Splendidly. Vera lied right back. Don't worry about us, darling. Go save the company. Austin left the estate, but the Maybach never went to the private airstrip. Instead, his driver pulled into an unmarked, heavily tinted surveillance van parked 3 blocks down the street. Inside, Richard Hayes sat in front of a massive bank of glowing monitors alongside 2 stern-looking FBI agents from the Financial Crimes Division. "Target is airborne," Agent Miller asked, as Austin took a seat. "She thinks I am," Austin replied, staring at the live feed of his own living room. Friday morning dawned crisp and clear. At exactly 8:15 a.m., David Kensington's sleek Porsche pulled into the Thompson driveway. Vera met him at the front door. On the hidden cameras, Austin watched his wife and his CFO share a passionate, victorious kiss right in the grand entryway. The 2 accomplices moved quickly. Vera dragged 2 heavy black suitcases from her closet, the very suitcases Josephine had accidentally uncovered. They carried them down to Austin's private study. David booted up his encrypted laptop, placing it directly on Austin's mahogany desk, while Vera retrieved the digital fingerprint token from a hidden compartment in her jewelry box. 80% liquid, 20% untraceable crypto. David bragged his arrogant voice caught crystal clear on the black box audio feed. "Once I hit execute, we walk out that door drive straight to the Van Nuys airport and disappear. Thompson will spend the next 10 years untangling the fake shell corporations I built." "Just do it, David," Vera urged, pacing nervously. "I can't spend another minute in this house. I'm sick of playing the devoted stepmother to those bratty twins." Austin's jaw tightened so hard his teeth ached. He watched as David inserted his security key while Vera plugged in Austin's stolen digital token. "Initiating transfer." David said, his finger hovering over the return key. He pressed it. On Richard's monitor in the surveillance van, a green progress bar flashed to 100%. "Transfer executed," Richard announced. "Dummy server caught it. Escrow is locked. They have nothing." "Move in," Agent Miller ordered into his radio. Inside the mansion, Vera and David were zipping their coats, grabbing the handles of their heavy suitcases. Suddenly, the heavy oak doors of the study burst open. "Leaving so soon?" Austin asked, stepping into the room. Vera dropped her suitcase. The color completely drained from her perfectly bronzed face, leaving her looking like a terrified ghost. David stumbled backward, knocking over a crystal decanter that shattered violently on the hardwood floor. "Austin," Vera stammered, her hands shaking. You're in Tokyo." "I cancelled my flight," Austin said, his voice dropping to a terrifying quiet register. "I decided watching you commit federal wire fraud was a much better use of my morning." Behind Austin, a dozen FBI agents and local police officers flooded the study, weapons drawn. "David Kensington and Vera Thompson, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, grand larceny, and corporate espionage," Agent Miller declared, flashing his badge. "He made me do it," Vera shrieked instantly, pointing a trembling finger at David, completely abandoning the man she had kissed 20 minutes prior. "Austin, please. He manipulated me. He threatened me." "Shut up, you stupid woman," David snapped back, panic destroying his arrogant facade. He looked at the agents. "She gave me the codes. She stole his fingerprint token. She orchestrated the whole thing." Austin watched coldly as the officers slammed David onto the desk, cuffing his hands tightly behind his back. Another officer grabbed Vera, forcing her wrists together. The heavy steel handcuffs clicked loudly, the exact same sound that had echoed on the driveway when Josephine was wrongfully arrested. "Austin, you can't do this! I am your wife!" Vera screamed, tears streaking her makeup as she was dragged toward the door. "My lawyers have already filed the divorce papers," Vera, Austin said evenly, not moving an inch. "You get nothing. And be sure to tell the judge how you framed an innocent woman to cover your tracks. I have the video of you planting the money. Have a nice flight to federal prison." As the sirens faded down the Bel Air hills, taking his treacherous wife and traitorous friend away for good, Austin took a deep, cleansing breath. The toxic infection had been cut out of his home. 3 days later, the mansion doors opened again. Oliver and Sophia stood in the grand entryway holding their breath. A sleek, black car pulled up. The driver opened the door and Josephine stepped out, no longer wearing a faded maid's uniform, but a sharp, elegant pantsuit. All charges had been completely dropped, her record thoroughly expunged, and Austin had issued a massive public apology in the press, clearing her name entirely. "Josie." The twins screamed in unison, running down the steps at full speed. Josephine dropped her new designer handbag and caught both children in a fierce, tearful embrace, burying her face in their shoulders. Austin watched from the doorway, smiling genuinely for the first time in weeks. Josephine wasn't returning as a maid. Austin had promoted her to the head of household operations, complete with a 6-figure salary, a luxury car, and a fully funded college trust for her own nieces and nephews. More importantly, she was permanently embedded as the true heart of the Thompson family, a protector who had weathered the storm and emerged victorious alongside the father and the twins she loved so dearly. The billionaire had almost lost everything to deceit. But thanks to the innocent eyes of his children and the unyielding loyalty of a good woman, Austin Thompson realized his greatest treasure wasn't hidden in a wall safe. It was standing right in front of him. Wow, what a massive twist and a satisfying ending. If you loved seeing Vera and David get exactly what they deserved, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this crazy true story with your friends. Drop a comment below, telling us what you would have done if you were Austin. See you next time.